Friday the 13th this year had a different meaning. Beyond black cats crossing the street and just bad luck, Paris was under attack. An entire nation desperate without understanding the reasons why it's happening. My name is Daniela, and today we're going to talk about some of the reasons why Paris was under attack. Among several different reasons, we're going to talk about the relationship between the refugees and what happened in Paris, if there's a connection between their religion, about Friday the 13th, if it was actually planned, or if it has a relationship with the Illuminati, and if it was a sacrifice. Also, there is a video on YouTube that talks about the open gates, how European countries are receiving refugees and people from all over the world to enter their countries, and they're calling it a collective suicide of European nations. Before we go any further, I would like to introduce a video that explains real quick what's happening with the refugees and why they're fleeing to other countries. So here's a quick illustration of what's happening with the refugees in the world.
In the summer of 2015, Europe experienced the highest influx of refugees since the Second World War. Why? The main reason is that Syria has become the world's top source of refugees. Syria is located in the Middle East, an ancient, fertile land settled for at least 10,000 years. Since the 1960s, it's been led by the al-Assad family, who have ruled it as quasi-dictators until the Arab Spring happened in 2011, a revolutionary wave of protests and conflicts in the Arab world that toppled many authoritarian regimes. But the Assads refused to step down and started a brutal civil war. Different ethnicities and religious groups fought each other in changing coalitions. ISIS, a militaristic jihadist group, used the opportunity and entered the chaos with the goal to build a totalitarian Islamic caliphate. Very quickly, it became one of the most violent and successful extremist organizations on earth. All sides committed horrible war crimes using chemical weapons, mass executions, torture on a large scale, and repeated deadly attacks on civilians. The Syrian population was trapped between the regime, rebel groups, and the religious extremists. A third of the Syrian people have been displaced within Syria, while over 4 million have fled the country. The vast majority of them reside now in camps in the neighboring countries, who are taking care of 95% of.
And that explains why people are having to leave their countries and find a home in different places in Europe. With that said, that explains why Europeans are receiving so many people, and they're having a policy of open gates, which means they're receiving immigrants, and the borders are not being as heavily secured, simply because they're receiving a humongous number of people every day, all the time. And some of the theories think that it is related to religion, and some of the Islam people were trying to pass as refugees, and they infiltrated the country as a refugee, and further on turned out to be terrorists. There's also the false flag attack, and there are some people who believe that the United States are using the terrorists as a tool or an attack excuse. In addition to that, some refugees were yelling in the scenes, saying Allah Akbar, which means Allah for them is a god, and it's saying God is great. So they are looking for an excuse. In their religion, they believe that traitors or people who are going against their policies or against their laws should be killed. And they are using their religion as an excuse. And those are called extremists. The extremists are trying to kill people, and some people also relate that to an Illuminati sacrifice, simply because of the New World Order agenda and the fanatics that want to kill people who are not faithful to them. And they believe that simply by taking refugees from their countries, we are being unfaithful or unfair to them, because we're accepting people who are going against their government, and that's why they wanted to kill people in France. Even though there are some relations to Islam religion, I don't like to generalize, because we can never tell if their intentions were exactly that, or if they're all the same, if they all have the same laws and reasons. But there is one thing that's for sure: it doesn't matter which religion you're from or what you believe in and which gods you pray for. There is one thing that is not humane, which is killing. And I believe that not a single theory here has enough basis to agree that that was fair to anyone, and nobody will be able to prove that that was a fair reason or there is something behind it. And I just hope that all of the theories and all of the reasons why will simply lead to a conclusion and not allow us to have that happen again to any country or to anyone. It might have been a Friday 13th bad luck. It might have been refugees who infiltrated us, turned out to be terrorists, and it might have been Illuminati sacrifice. It doesn't matter what it was. All we can do right now is pray for Paris and hope for it to be over.